Yet another video game adaptation has arrived, this time with the co-op shooter Borderlands. Video game adaptations in the past have been nothing but trash or forgettable flicks like Mortal Kombat or Uncharted. This time around, our ragtag team of bounty hunters and vault dwellers include a crazy cast list, and promises to create a fun and over-the-top adventure to remember, all from the mind of Eli Roth. The question is, does it succeed in this, and how well does it stay true to the games? I think you may have a clue from the title of this video. Let's not beat around the bush, let's find out our review of Borderlands. Alright, who am I kidding? This is gonna be a total roast session, so let's get this over with. For those of you who aren't familiar with Borderlands, it's a co-op shooter that follows a group of vault hunters in the Borderlands. The game consists mainly of missions and quests, with an emphasis on the characters and the insane amount of different weapons and loot. It's creative as it is fun and a great time with friends. I was really shocked to hear that they would be adapting this particular game into a movie, but even more shocked by who would be in it. A wide range of well-respected and established actors, some of which always hold it down in no matter what movie they're in. That is until this absolute mess of a movie. Cate Blanchett, Jamie Lee Curtis, Jack Black. I was surprised, but we'll go to the casting in just a second. The movie follows Lilith as our main character as she returns to her home planet Pandora and forms an unexpected alliance with a ragtag team of misfits. Together they battle alien monsters and dangerous bandits to uncover one of Pandora's most explosive secrets. It's based in the world of Borderlands, but doesn't follow any particular story in the games. So now that we've gotten the plot out of the way, where do we begin with this mess of a movie? Let's start with the acting and the casting.
Well, destiny awaits.
From the very first scene, I already knew things were going to be bumpy. Kevin Hart delivers his lines with as much enthusiasm as someone who's never touched the games before, and I can guarantee you that he hasn't. Kevin Hart alone is one of my biggest gripes in the movie. The role that they have him play is that of Roland, a tall, gritty soldier type. At least in the games, that's what he is. Not saying that Kevin Hart couldn't do that, but he just isn't even in my first 200 people to pick for this role, and somehow he snatched it. Not to mention that this role is not a funny one. It's got some comedic timing and stuff like that, but it's a more serious one, and I don't think he can really do serious all that well. I think he's hilarious as a comedian, and I give him major props for working his way up, but not as a more serious role. I couldn't take him seriously. He was here for the Hollywood paycheck and completely out of his element in the worst way possible. Cate Blanchett is okay as our lead Lilith. She voices over the really lackluster script she's given. She's a phenomenal actress and always holds it down in all the projects that I've seen her in. She really did what she could with the lines she was given. Her dialogue is very much voiceover and exposition, just like in the game itself, where characters speak to you through the walkie-talkie system and break down certain things happening in real time. I give them props for sticking with this form of raw exposition, like in the games, but unfortunately this doesn't really translate that well into movies. It just sounds really awkward and rigid. It just doesn't work well. Tiny Tina, played by Ariana Greenblatt, is actually pretty good and had enough charisma to deliver most of her lines well as Tiny Tina, being a mischievous and firecracker of a character. I think the best character and performance was Jack Black as Claptrap. As one of the most iconic characters of the game series, it was important that they got this one right. He sounds just like him, and I feel like the lines they gave him were funny and very close to the character in the game, with the same kind of vibe. I find myself laughing and thanking the screen that he was able to hold it down like he did, because everything else was mediocre, and that's putting it lightly. Wrapping up our little group of misfits here, we have Jamie Lee Curtis as Tannis, which doesn't really have all that much screen time, and it's just a bit of a boring character, to be honest. Not much to her. She does a really good job, all things considered, but she doesn't really have much to do, even if they try to force her in as a major plot point later on. But perhaps the worst actor and character in the movie is the villain, by the name of Atlas. No offense against Edgar Ramirez, the actor who plays him, but Jesus Christ, the performance and the character are atrocious. A rushed, awkward, and bland character that has zero life and personality. This could have been played by anyone and it still would have fallen flat. Gary Oldman couldn't have saved this role even if he tried, because of just how badly it's written. And the delivery is just horrible. Every time he opened his mouth to speak, it had no oomph to it, and he barely barely has enough screen time to even establish any kind of personality or intimidation factor. When he spoke, he made Kevin Hart look like he was given an Oscar-winning performance. I don't know whether to blame the script or the actor, but I'm thinking I'm going to be blaming both equally. We first meet Atlas as a hologram, and the minute I saw this travesty on the screen, which is very early on in the movie, I knew that this film was not going to be good. This might be some of the worst CGI I've seen this year, and the biggest tragedy is that they didn't even need to do this. There was so many ways to show his face as a hologram. Use a screen or go old school as a Star Wars type miniature. Don't do this. They had no reason to do it. They have the audacity to have him front and center. I couldn't even believe my eyes. Cate Blanchett should have been paid more for delivering these lines the way she did.
My daughter has been kidnapped, and I need her returned to me.
Bounty hunter, not babysitter.
All the CGI talk is the perfect segue into my next biggest gripe, the graphics, the CGI. There are moments in this movie where the effects are decent and work as they should. Claptrap, for example, looks really good and meshes in with the environment. He looks like he's part of it. It looks really good. Some of the explosions and action sequences are also okay, but there are times in this movie where it literally looks like a video game. I know it's based on a video game, but that doesn't mean it needs to look like one, and shouldn't. The final action sequence of this movie is horrid. It's visually disturbing with unrealistic and sloppy CGI. I don't know if they ran out of time or money on this, but the last act of the movie really shows the god-awful graphics and CGI. Just an absolute shame. A CGI cringe fest. At least the action was good, is what fans wish they would have said with this one. No, not even the action was good. Some are okay, but a lot of them just feel very awkward and just don't have anything memorable about them. That's because the plot is so boring and the characters, you don't really care for them, so no one's really in danger. And we know how these go. It's very cliche, so none of the main characters are in true danger when they are getting shot at. It's just a load of mindless shooting, lazily done and boring. The game is loud and explosive and quirky and colorful, and this one is just dull throughout. I was thinking of so many cool things they could have done, like the hallway shootout with Roland, and how they could have utilized Tiny Tina or the Psychos to better effect, but they did not. When it comes to fan service, they did a decent job, I guess, with some of the guns, the gadgets, the vehicles, the locations. Pretty decent and pretty accurate. I wish they would have used more of the fun guns that they have in the game, because they have a ton of different quirky and creative weapons, so it would have been cool to see that in a live action kind of thing like this. Marcus and Mad Moxie, played by Gina Gershon and Benjamin Davis, are actually very true to their characters. They don't show up for very long, but both of them looked exactly like they did in the game and their characters and spoke just like them too. So for that, I do give them props and credit. The look of it was there, but sadly, the heart of it is not. I feel like to truly have made the movie work, they would have had to really create engaging and interesting characters and really deliver with amazing script that followed the game closely, but also added its own creativity to it. And that just wasn't there for this one. And man, the missed opportunity to have the character card introductions like in the game was a huge miss. I feel like it's so obvious to have some kind of introduction like that where it's a freeze frame they use in the games. It would have created easy character development and just introductions in general. But we're not done yet. The pacing is also terrible. Borderlands drags itself up until the third act, where we literally see the entirety of the cast, crew, writers, and everyone just completely give up. Mainly the writers. Up until this point, there's nothing really memorable, and we could not care less for these characters. All the shooting and mindless banter couldn't create anything compelling to hold on to as the audience. The third act and the finale is super rushed and extremely predictable, beat for beat. Everything you think is going to happen happens, and it occurs all in the span of 10 minutes, even less than that. The twist in the final fight, the conclusion, all done in a matter of minutes. It just feels completely rushed. And the Deus Ex Machina that they use is just absolutely atrocious and so overdone. All in all, there really isn't many good things to say for this movie. The biggest tragedy is how boring and heartless it ends up being. When I saw the 0% on Rotten Tomatoes, which I think it's at a 7% now, I thought, okay, surely it couldn't be that bad. I was giving this movie a chance going into it, but I was utterly disappointed, and will stick to playing the games. Thank you very much. What could have been a fun ensemble misfit comedy action movie ends up just being a forgettable mess with barely any redeeming qualities whatsoever. Just a shame. Borderlands the movie gets a devastating 3 bad CGI explosions out of 10. Disappointing. Please let me know what you thought of Borderlands, and if you want to see more like this, please be sure to hit that subscribe button, stay up to date with our latest movie reviews and more. Thank you so much for watching, and catch you on the flip.